Alright people, so here's what we're doing. I am trying to figure out how to get the best goddamn video. Let's go ahead and turn my exhaust on quiet. There we go. So, a little bit of a saga here going through, trying to figure all this stuff out. So, with the help of Alex, who's a photo guru, I think we're going to get this sorted. So what I'm trying to do right now is we're going to shoot, actually we're shooting at the moment at 4K 30 frames per second. They say unless you're going to do slow-mo, 30 should look just as good. All right, I'm going to try it. I would like to be able to cut down on the file sizes and the rendering times. So I'm going to try 30 and see if it looks good. I've turned off the flow state on the camera because when you go into the manual settings, I've got an ND16 filter on right now because it's cloudy and overcast. So I've got that on. ISO is set for 200. Now I know a lot of the GoPro guys are like, oh, you're supposed to do it at 100. Alex actually reached out to Insta360. This is the guy who finds answers. He's always blowing up my phone every time I'm doing a video. You hear my phone going ba-bing, ba-bing in the background. But Alex is a go-getter. He will go and find out the damn information. So we were talking about it, and he reached out to Insta360 and got a hold of him on Facebook, and within like half an hour had the answer we're looking for. So there's the native ISO of the camera. GoPro, it's 100. It's 200 if you got an Insta360 One RS. So that is the native ISO, so it's not trying to do any kind of conversions or any crap like that. So that's what you want to shoot at if you're going to use ND filters. Use ISO 200, and right now I'm using the 180 rule, so we're doing 4K, 30 frames a second. The shutter speed is 1/60th. So that is what we doing, and we're going to see how that turns out. What had happened was I had gone to the Apple store yesterday. I've got an iPad or a MacBook Air M2. It was the bare bones $999 one because at the time I was just looking for a tablet replacement that I could also do other stuff on and have a normal keyboard for typing. And so I went with that. And then afterwards, I'm like, I got the bright idea of, ooh, we could use this for, doing video editing because it's got this super fast processor. And it does. However, having only 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, not good when you're doing a whole bunch of 4K videos. If I'm doing one video here and there, it was fine. But when I would go and get go do a track day, or we had a long mountain ride up to the Dragon or something, and I got like hours of footage I got to cut down into like a 45-minute 4K video, I didn't have the storage. So, and you can get an external hard drive and all that shit, and it just wasn't working. So I went and got an iPad Pro M2, the new one, 1 terabyte edition. Figuring that gives me all the storage I need. It's got the same M2 processor as the new MacBook Pros, but it's more portable. It's this, Here's a couple problems. One of the things we notice is that when are you doing the motion blur with the manual settings and the ND filter like we're doing, it messes up the image stabilization. You got to turn it off in the camera or it looks janky, to use Alex's technical term. And so you have to turn it off and then do it in post. All right, well, the Insta360 app that you extract the stuff out of the camera with can do that in post, but it can't export it into ProRes, which is what I wanted to use to really up the quality and cut down. It's very highly optimized for Apple Silicon. So that was the first strike against the iPad. Second one was I can only transfer this stuff from the camera to the iPad over Wi-Fi, which when you're working with, 20 gigabytes of files, you can't do it. It has to go through the Wi-Fi. It's slow as shit. When you put the SD card out and you pull it into like an SD reader and then plug it into the Thunderbolt port on the iPad, The Insta360 program can't see it. Can do it on Android, because Android is an open file system and makes it your life much easier. Apple, being dicks, has to have everything locked down, you know, more protected than your sister's virtue, and it makes it really a pain in the ass and throws a lot of limitations. It'll limit your drag and drop abilities, and I won't get into my Apple rant. I like their products in some ways, in other ways they're just freaking retarded how they do shit. And they do it just because they can. All right, we got a green arrow here. Oh, not yet. All right, I was gonna honk at this dude. So I can't import it into the 360 app. I can do it as a raw file just through an SD card import, but then I can't apply the flow state in that conversion when I bring it over, which you do flow state either on the camera, your image stabilization, which I can't do with this lens setup, or you do it when you import the file. And so I either have to do it really super slow over Wi-Fi, or I can't do the image stabilization at all. Strike two against the iPad Pro. The third thing is, people are like, well, you could do it in post in another video editing app. Yeah, except iMovies doesn't, and iMovie for iPad is way more limited than it is on the MacBook. I thought it was the same program with the same functionality, just tailored to a touchscreen. It isn't. It's got about a quarter, if that, of the functionality. You can apply some basic filters, you can add a movie, you know, soundtracks and subtitles and transitions, and not much else. And your export options are very limited as far as what formats and things like that. Let's see. When you're using the mobile app from Insta360, you know, the iPad app to pull the files in, not only is it slow, it can't do ProRes. It's got to go over the cable for that, probably because of the file size or something. Or they just didn't bother to write it in there in the software. So that's like 4 strikes now. The other thing was, you know, iMovies was limited, so I looked at Adobe Premiere Rush. Great iPad editing app, except it cannot do image stabilization. You'd have to port it over to Premiere on another computer and do it from there, which is more cost and more steps. So in the end, as much as they say, you know, you have so much power in the iPad Pro, from what I found, you can't do a whole lot of pro things with the damn thing. It just has too many concessions, too many limitations. So I just packed it up, and we're going back to the Apple store, and I'm going to swap it out, because I only bought it yesterday, so I'm still in that trade-in period. So I'm going to take it back and the case that I bought for it, and we're going to apply that credit to either a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air, a new M2, that's going to have 16 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage. That will not only give me the storage and the extra speed and the extra RAM to crunch through videos faster, but it'll open up the door for much better video editing applications. It'll let me pull things in ProRes through Insta360 app, because the desktop app has more functionality. I can apply my flow state and image stabilization in post and bring it in ProRes, and then do my edits in ProRes. If this all works out, then it's gonna cost me a couple more bucks, because the iPad was like $1,500 plus the case. Everything came with like almost $1,700 or something. This is going to up it to $2,000, so it's a few $100 more, but I guess in the big picture it's not that big of a difference. But if it allows me to do everything I want, and it really cuts down on my processing time, because I'm able to use more optimal settings and better stuff and better tools and do a better job, and I've got the storage space to use ProRes, and that cuts down on my time because it's much more optimized, then I feel like that's going to up my game on the videos, make them much more professional looking, a little less 13-year-old kid on his iPhone. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So not the best day for this, but I wanted to get like a 15-minute 4K video with my settings, so I can, when I get the MacBook home, I can try to import it into ProRes and apply the flow state and do all this stuff and see how it works. I am off work tomorrow. is going to be pretty good. So I'm going to take one of the bikes out and get some footage of that at speed and see what we can do with the new MacBook and the right software. I'll start with iMovie, but maybe I'll get Wondershare Filmora or the free version of DaVinci or something like that. I had hopes that the iPad would work because I heard, oh, they're coming out with, DaVinci for the iPad. That nobody knows when, and we don't know really what functions are going to be ported over. They make a big claim of, oh, it's going to have, a desktop experience. But the other ones claim that too. Adobe says it's going to be Illumia something. They promise, you're on a tablet, but you're getting a desktop-like experience. But if I can't do the image stabilization and I can't get the stuff that I need in the format I need, then, it just, what's the point in spending the money? I'm no better off than I was before. So this is what we're doing. We'll do it that way to get it right and go from there. So I think how long has this video been running? Let me see. 11.5 minutes. That's long enough to make a decent sized 4K file for me to edit, because I want to check the processing times, and depending on what effects I do, I'm going to use this as a test file to do a couple test runs of compiling it, rendering it different ways to see which one came out the best. What are the best combinations of settings and color correction and enhancements and things like that. So I'll do some time tests and see what we come up with. But anyway, yeah, if this actually makes it to the channel, thanks for bearing with me. And again, if you have experience with this stuff, you're a vlogger, you've got this camera specifically, so maybe you found the optimal settings that aren't in the manual or whatever in the user guides, and you found what works best for high resolution, fast-paced action videos, and I wanted it 4K, and I want some motion blur, but it needs to look good, man. I want it to look like, I want it to look proper. I've got a good camera. I'm going to be investing the better part of $2,000 in a damn laptop, and plus whatever the software costs. I want this to look good and be worth my time and effort and money. So if you've got some wisdom to share with a noob like myself, love to hear it. Anyway, thanks.